Lifeway Research surveyed 1,800 Americans a few months ago about abuse in the church. Almost a third said they expect to learn of more cases of Protestant pastors abusing children. But 37% disagreed and 31% said they didn't know. At the same time, more than half said their church is very prepared to protect children from abuse in ministry programs. And joining us now with more on this is author Mary DeMuth, who has long written about her abuse as a child and advocated for other survivors, and especially for her denomination, the Southern Baptist Convention, to deal with it. Mary, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Mary, we have really witnessed an incredible last year and a half or so since Me Too began. We've seen churches start to deal more publicly with abuse. And, you look at the results of this poll, and from what you're hearing and seeing from your vantage point, do you expect a lot more cases to come forward?
I do. In this culture of more openness, and especially the next generation demanding it, I anticipate there's going to be a lot more disclosure. And so the church really needs to decide what to do in these kinds of cases. In the past, what's happened is they have kind of tended to resort to protectionism and silencing victims, which we've seen very much in the past year or so. And my hope in my heart is to see that change, where we can have some external investigations and reinstill some trust back into the church.
Yeah, we're really not seeing a lot of independent investigations, at least from what I'm seeing. Are there examples, do you think, of churches that are handling reports of abuse well?
Well, I think a lot of that is done behind the scenes. It's when it gets public that things get kind of messy. And so it's hard to quantify, who did well and who didn't do well, because we're kind of driven by the media, right? So in those high-profile cases, a lot of times we have seen that there has not been an independent investigation, but it's hard to determine in those non-famous cases what churches are doing. I am seeing more of a willingness by pastors, and this plays out in that poll that was done with Lifeway, that they are more willing and more interested in it, contacting authorities immediately, where that has not always been the case.
Okay. I want to ask you also, in this survey, 1 in 10 Protestant churchgoers under 35 said they left a church because they didn't feel that sexual misconduct was taken seriously. And I'm wondering, do you think the younger generation is less tolerant of churches not dealing with this?
Yes, and I'm really grateful for the millennial generation who are saying we're not going to have this on our watch anymore. And they have a high value of authenticity and transparency. And when things are kind of clandestine and not dealt with publicly, it can cause a crisis of faith. And I believe that if we want to see revival in our churches around the nation, we need to handle this issue with integrity, with honesty, with repentance, and with a heart toward those who are on the shadows or outcasted. Because that's when I see Jesus walking the earth, I see him looking for those people who are not in positions of power but are being hurt. And so the more we are siding with those who have gone through this kind of devastation, the more we're going to represent this winsome Jesus to people who are longing for authenticity.
Mary, of course, as you know, the Southern Baptist Convention is holding its annual meeting in a few weeks. There's been promises that abuse will be a major focus. What are you hoping for?
Yeah, I'm hoping for a lot more transparency, and I'm really confident that at the helm we have J.D. Greer, who's been just a huge voice for this change and this transformation. We're seeing it in the ERLC, and that my hope is that we will see a lot more transparency, a lot more interest, and especially a lot more listening to survivors, because we actually have a unique voice, and we're watching the situation from a different vantage point, and I think our voices need to be heard.
All right, Mary DeMuth, thanks for your insights and your time.
Thank you.